Jive 5 Jeff from 2Hex Garage. Well, it's another night in Micah's shop. Right now he is putting in some of the transmission lines for the C6 to the radiator. We still got to plumb in the cooler for that, but I wanted to have a quick talk on Let's Talk Tires. So in a previous video, I showed you how I swapped out my 275/60/15 Cooper Cobra street tires for the 275/60/15 drag radials. I did a little video on why I did that and what the difference is on tires. Well, there's also a difference when it comes to front tires. On this here, it's also a set of Cooper Cobras, and they're 215/70/15s. It's a really good street tire, and actually it probably wouldn't be too bad for the street. But for the strip, I'm actually gonna go with a different style tire. It's considered a front runner. Now, back in the day, there was specific front runner tires for drag racing, but what a lot of guys did is they bought kind of a taller, skinnier tire that was economically sound for them to be purchasing to put on their drag car. Here's kind of an example of that. This is actually quite a rare tire. This is a Goodyear Thunderbolt tire. It's a 735 by 775/15. What kind of makes this a rare tire? Well, in 1967, Carroll Shelby built a one-off 1967 GT500 Super Snake to test these tires for Goodyear. That car recently sold for $2.2 million. And the kind of cool thing about this tire is they averaged 142 miles an hour for over 500 miles and still retain 97% of the tread. And on top of that, Carroll Shelby personally drove the car and hit top speed of 172 miles an hour. So yeah, this is actually a really rare tire, but this is kind of like the design that would have been used for somebody going with a kind of a budget-friendly style front runner. And why is that, you say? Well, it's a taller, skinnier tire. And when it comes to taller, skinnier tires, if you see here, your patch that touches the ground is less than something like this. So with that, kind of like what I'm going with, it's a classic ProTrack competition front runner style tire. This is primarily designed for street use, or for strip use. However, it is that minimum requirement DOT approved. If you look at here, your actual patch on here is pretty thin. So the theory behind that is if you have a thin patch touching the ground, you have less resistance, which means theoretically you can go faster because you have less drag. So I'm going to try to get a little bit closer up and kind of show you what I mean with that. All right, there we go. So if you look at this tire here, this tire is actually in today's standards, it's actually considered a 215/75/15. But in reality with this tire, your tread pattern on this is actually, it's roughly a 27-inch tire with the actual tread surface at 3 inches. That's very minimal. There is a difference between street car tires and drag car tires for the front. A really good friend of mine, he's a fellow YouTuber, he likes to comment a lot on my posts, gives me really great advice. Him and I had a conversation on the phone today, and one of the differences is when you choose a tire for drag racing on the front, there's a braking difference. So if you look at the tire above me, let me get back over here real quick. If you look at the tire above me, you can see here that you have a footprint, if this would be on the ground, roughly 8 by 8. Okay, so not only does it handle better on the street, has more control, more stability, but when you're braking, your footprint, basically like a shoe stopping, is probably about 8 by 8 on the ground. With this tire here, you're gonna be maybe 4 by 4. So you have, when it comes to braking and having that braking bias, twice as much with the street tire, half as much as the drag racing tire. Another difference is sidewall on this. These are pretty pliable, while these are pretty strong. So this tire here really isn't a tire you're gonna go around corners real hard, real fast, and expect it to handle very well. This is straight line performance. This is all around performance. Like I said, the only advantage of going with this tire for drag racing over this tire, less drag. Less drag theoretically means you can have quicker ETs. We're actually gonna put that to the test. So now that I have 2 sets of tires and 2 sets of wheels for these, I have a street tire set, which is Cooper Cobras all the way around, and I have a drag racing set, which is Mickey Thompson and ProTrack. Sticky Mickeys, skinny ProTracks. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to test this out once this car is up and going, dialed in, tuned in. So at the No Name Nationals, we're going to test out on a run on how does it react with street tires and how does it react with drag racing tires. I'm kind of really interested to see on the difference on that, but you know what, guys, that's going to be fun because the theory is when I'm just driving around the street, these will be good enough, really good burnouts, good quality control, good driving control, stuff like that. But when I'm at the No Name Nationals with the 2 days of smoke and automotive chaos, I want to be able to hook, have as little drag as possible, go straight as possible, and have nobody gap me. That's a little jab right there at DRC Racing Garage. So with that, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to get working. I just wanted to talk a little bit of tire technology and the differences on street tires, drag racing tires, why you should run them, why you shouldn't. Honestly, guys, if you're running stuff on the street, stick to something like Cooper Cobras, maybe a good drag radial at back. But on the track, if you can afford it, stuff like this really does work. But your braking bias is going to be a little bit different. So always keep that in mind. So with that, we'll see you tomorrow. Later.